Recording. All right. Hey, Marcy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Video logs of people's process that they've gone through and all the changes that they've had to make. And as I said to you before, this is not testimonial based. This is more, we just want to know your story because your story will relate to somebody else. And you have made such a huge transformation over time, but it has been since a long time.
Yes,
This
long
was
time.
not, yes, this was not like suddenly you gained 30 pounds and you needed to lose 30 pounds. This was
Mhm.
not your situation. Your situation seems to have peeled back many layers of the onion,
Yeah,
right?
yes,
So
very much
um,
so.
I'm going to go and I'm going to go to your pictures, okay, and some
Okay.
of your progress pictures to where you are.
Okay.
And we're just going to talk about some things about where you were, okay? So let's see, we're going to go to, of course, the one that I want. Where did it go? Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. Here we go. All right. Here we are. So, and this, which one of this is your son's? Which one? The
That
first
is
one?
my oldest.
Your oldest.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So
Who is
in
now
2000,
13.
in 2004, was that when your, is that when you guys got married?
That is, yes, that picture is from my honeymoon.
From your honeymoon. Okay. And
Yeah.
then 3 years later, you had your oldest.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then, of course, here, 2020.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about who you were in 2004. What were your habits? What was your lifestyle like? Like what were your ingrained habits?
So my ingrained habits, I was working full-time then. I was a teacher and I was pretty regular about getting up and going to the gym 3 days a week before going to work.
Mhm.
But I mean, it was kind of the same. I didn't really change it up. It was kind of the machines just kind of do what was comfortable. And it was more just to say that I was going to the gym instead of to
Mhm.
actually make the transformation.
So you're putting
And I
time in. You're just putting in time.
putting in time and a lot of my things were what I was doing was very cardio based
Mhm.
versus actual strength training.
And
Um,
what were your foods like, your nutrition, your mindset? What was that like?
I just ate whatever I wanted. I
So
didn't really
you
care.
so you thought, and how old were you in this picture?
23.
So still young, super young.
Yeah.
Yes, still super young. So you ate whatever you wanted and you figured at least you were going to the gym. Now, did you have any expectations of weight change then or weight loss? Were you hoping for that?
No, it was just more of, you know, you're always told that, you need to lead an active lifestyle. And so I tried to, my going to the gym 3 days a week, doing the same thing, and then like rollerblading with my dog, that was my thing. But I mean, it was more just to have the habit to say I did it versus having an end goal, I guess.
Did you have any like do you have any body like were you self-conscious at all or were you fine?
I was pretty self conscious. I mean, what girl isn't? I mean, I've struggled with weight my entire life. I was always heavy as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and weight was, um, I guess I should say, image was a very important thing in the family I grew up in, especially in relating to my grandparents.
Okay.
They were very kind of high society and appearances mattered a lot. And I didn't
Right.
really fit into their idea of what a woman is supposed to be because I wasn't big into getting my hair done. I was more of like the tomboy.
Right.
And I think that probably related more to my weight because a lot of the cute, stylish clothes, they just didn't fit me. And so making a tomboy, dressing as a tomboy in baggy t-shirts and, baggy jeans and, that was just easier. And at one point in junior high, my grandmother actually sent me to fat camp. It was called Camp La Jolla, and it was in La Jolla, California. They actually called it a fitness vacation at the beach. And I think that kind of did more harm than good.
Now, oh, interesting. So it already kind of gave you the message that something was wrong with you.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. And I did lose some weight when I was there. And but I feel like what I learned there and kind of applied, it was restrictive dieting. They limited us to 1,200 calories a day, like, and meals were portioned out for us. Like, you walked through the line and they gave you a pre-portioned thing. You didn't really learn anything other than, like, if you have a fruit flavored yogurt, you shouldn't have fruit, that sort of thing. It wasn't about balancing the calories with your, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And in some ways I look back and now I know that it did a lot of more damage than it helped, because not only were we calorie restricted, we got up and did a mile before we even ate breakfast. And we did 3 full length, hour-long exercises, actually 4, I think, per day.
What?
Every day, 7 days a week. Actually, no, 6 days a week. We had some days off.
4 1-hour exercise classes in a day.
After doing a mile before breakfast. And you had to walk to the place where you did a mile at the track and then walk to breakfast. So it was actually probably closer to 2 miles by the time you had breakfast.
That's crazy.
You were exercising on an empty stomach.
Yes.
Yeah. And then calorie restrictive. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty extreme on both ends, but okay. All right. And then, so then you met your husband, you get married, and then fast forward 3 years. Okay. And your first one is born. And so do you know approximately how much weight you put on between those 3 years?
So in those 3 years, I probably maintained my weight for probably the first 2 years of our marriage, but then we started trying for children, and I actually got pregnant right away, and lost that child at about 11, 12 weeks.
Oh, well,
and that kind of sent me into my body's broken sort of mentality, especially when this same grandmother that had sent me to fat camp asked me, did your weight have anything to do with it?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so shaming.
Yes, there was a lot of shaming involved. So I just kind of, at that point, wasn't really exercising as much anymore, and just kind of dealing with, the loss of a wanted pregnancy. And it took quite a while for my hormones to balance out after that. And then and in between that time, I think because my hormones were so wacky, I kind of kept gaining a little bit. And I think when I got pregnant with my first, I probably weighed about 220.
Okay.
I should say in that photograph in 2004, I was probably about 205 maybe. And so I was up at 220 before I got pregnant the second time, and I just like ballooned. Like I'm like, I don't care, I'm eating for 2.
Yeah.
And I had done a childbirth education class that focused on the brewer diet, which is like a high protein diet. And so I focused on protein during that pregnancy, but at the same time, I think I focused, but not only did I increase my protein level, I increased the carbohydrate and fat. And so it just everything just kind of ballooned. And the day I went in to have my son, I think the scales topped out at about 268.
Okay.
So I gained about 50 pounds-ish during that pregnancy. And it did not want to come off after. I actually even gained weight a little bit after.
Okay. And then you went on to have 2 more children. And during that time, were you approximately the same weight?
No. After Jake was born, we moved to North Carolina, and I kind of started exercising a little bit more as just a way to meet people, because I didn't know anybody when we moved here. And I did Weight Watchers
Okay.
with the point system. And I dropped probably back down to the 210, 215
Right.
range. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, it was kind of unsustainable because as soon as you stop counting your points,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all diet based, it wasn't necessarily exercise based.
Right.
But then after Weston was born, I didn't gain nearly as much with my middle child. And then I started doing exercising more regularly during my third pregnancy. And I actually gained about 10 pounds during the entire third pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I was in a good position. I met my friend Christine, who eventually is the one who got me, introduced me to Think, but
Right.
she had got me watching, she's more holistic, so she got me kind of watching my diet more. It wasn't necessarily Weight Watchers, but it was just thinking about,
Right.
conscious about what you're putting in your mouth, more of like a whole food
Yeah.
type eating system versus processed.
Yes.
And then I think I started at Think in, was it May of 2017?
Okay.
I think.
About there. Yes. About there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So,
then, yes. And then at that point, I remember you were an avid runner and you were doing a lot of running.
a lot of cardio.
A lot of cardio.
A lot of cardio.
I knew my dogs could not sustain being quiet for a moment. So hold on. So, let me let one in. There we go. Yeah. They get a little growly at each other. So yes. And then, yes, you were doing a lot of cardio. And then when you came to Think, we were trying to, teach you weight training. And there's one thing that you discovered when you came in, which you didn't know that you were hypermobile.
Yes.
Yes. Now that's a big factor for people because people don't know a lot of times they're hypermobile. And the thing with people who are, we call them loose as a goose, in their joints and ligaments, they don't know quite how to engage their muscles. All right. So they're working out and they're doing things and nothing's really activating. Okay. As you learned over time. Yes. And that's something that I feel that people should know about themselves, especially when they're young and they're teenagers and they're going into their 20s, that they should know that they're hypermobile, because a lot of times if you're not engaging the muscle properly, right, then we're not getting any muscle development or growth. And we know that a large part of our metabolism is stored in our muscles, right? So all of these things were kind of something that you've been missing for 30 something years at least, right? So that's one part against you, because everything you were taught was, food restriction, okay, keep burning it off. Yeah. Which is an unsustainable approach for a long period of time. But then, yes, we come to 2020, okay, and you had lost the weight. I'm going to zoom into another picture too, which I just love this picture. And so you had lost the weight and, you had learned how to work out. Okay. I just love this picture. It's so cute. Right. So here you are, completely different human. Okay. You're on the other side of things. You also discover that you have some thyroid issues, right, along the way. Well, actually autoimmune based, right?
Yes. Which they had I kind of had thyroid issues. It had kind of been suggested kind of all through my life, but because the typical thyroid tests came back within normal limits, nobody ever nobody ever pursued it further, and I didn't know enough to pursue it further.
Yes. So, so with that being the case, and that also too, Marcy, I don't know if you know that, your autoimmune thyroid issues also contributes to miscarriages.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big factors too that does. And they don't really talk about that. It wasn't much known back then, the effect of Hashimoto's. But now once you discovered that, okay, but you also started getting over time, and it took from 2017 to 2020, right? To,
Mhm.
build this amount of muscle mass, arrange your eating in a different way that's non-restrictive. So
Right.
how would you say now your eating is non-restrictive but balanced? What's the change?
So I'm going to be flat out honest. I don't really track macros anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm kind of at a place where I'm happy with my weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to lose another 10 pounds, but I know how to do it if
Mm-hmm.
I ever get the desire to really push. But what I do is I just focus on getting my protein in.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand what good quality protein is. For tracking for so long, and not only what it is, but what a true serving is. And so I just kind of focus on that and making sure I get in, focus on protein and vegetables, and then just kind of fill in with unprocessed carbs, you know,
Mm-hmm.
along the way. I do pretty much start out every morning with protein in my coffee because, with 3 kids, of course, this year COVID's a little bit different, but I would always get up super early, get my kids, make all the lunches, and then, get them off to the bus, yada, yada, yada. And
Yes.
next thing you know, it's like I've been up since 6 a.m. and it's now 8:30 and I haven't eaten anything.
Right.
Kind of have that. I would either like stuff my face and eat a ton, or I would kind of crash. And so I found just adding that protein to my cup of coffee in the morning helps sustain me through the morning until I can actually sit down and, eat.
Yes, have a meal. That's one of the biggest things I see. If that's why for me, I always tell people the first tip you should do is start learning how to get in approximately 30 grams of protein every,
Mhm.
4 times a day, and equally spaced out, because that's one of the big factors. Like, people think they fail at food, okay,
Mhm.
because they start out their day with very little food. They're trying to be good, okay,
Mhm.
trying to keep portions small and doing all these things. But then they find by 3 p.m., 4 p.m., that they're
Mhm.
gorging on goldfish, especially when you're a mom and you're around all
Yeah.
these little snacky foods and, everything like that. So that's one of the biggest tips, I think that someone can do, okay,
Mhm.
to be able to make this change. And then you also learned, I remember the time you came in the studio and you said, oh my gosh, I'm running and I actually feel my hamstrings and glutes,
Yes.
right? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yes. And where you never felt that before, just in daily walking. Like,
Uh-huh.
to me, that's something, it's like a stabilizer. It's like the
Right.
foundation of a house. It's like a shock absorber. Like, I feel that
Right.
muscle constantly. And that's a huge muscle that has huge metabolic capacity,
Mhm.
and we're taught so many times just, cut food down, just get in more activity and the weight will
Mhm.
come off. But a lot of times for women, especially after having 3 babies, okay, you
Mhm.
lose so much muscle mass in that process, along with you being hypermobile.
Yeah.
Okay, along with people not knowing about that protein rule. Okay,
Mhm.
protein protects lean mass at the,
Yeah.
and then, yes, helps you build it. So
Mhm.
women get stuck in this vicious cycle a lot of times,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they approach 40 and they're like, what is going on? Like, I
Yeah.
can't, like, my body just doesn't lose weight like it used to. Okay,
Right.
so they
Mhm.
wind up in this, so knowing what you know today, what
Mhm.
if you could tell your younger self, especially your younger self who was in that camp that I cannot believe those places are allowed legally? Like, if it was done well, I can understand, but to me that's just like, they feed into a lot of the disordered eating that people wind up having, and this
Mhm.
yo-yo effect, and just this feeling of guilt and shame around food as to why can't they stick to a plan, but pretty much because they're starving.
Yeah.
So what would you tell your younger self today, if you could tell
Wow.
your younger self anything?
Younger self.
Hmm.
Man, that's a deep question. I've thought about it and I thought about it, and like
That's a tough one. Yes, what would you
it
tell your
is.
younger self?
Um, that your worth is more than your looks. Because I
Yes.
think it was so impressed on me, and that I am strong. Um, yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
I wish
Because
I had
that's,
more to say, but
yeah, but think
like
about
it's
it. Like you were told as a young child that, you're only good enough as your weight is.
right,
So you were told as a younger child, you're not good enough because your weight isn't perfect or
right.
whatever. That's that kind of,
Yes,
mentality. You were told maybe you're not lovable enough, right?
right,
Because you're not skinny.
right,
Um, and part of being able to change yourself also involves loving yourself,
right,
and having that level of self-care,
right,
and knowing how to do this for the long haul. So now, yes, it took you, 3 years of time to do the physique reshaping, right?
right,
That
right.
we see now. Um, and so along with that, you start to change your physique, but now you get to this other point,
Mhm.
of who you are now, but also too, being very fit has its consequences as well.
Yes,
People think that, oh, if you're all fit and you lost all the weight, life is perfect. That's
yeah.
not true either, is it?
No, it's not. It's
No.
not.
So what would you say are some of the wins of being, in the shape you're in now? What are the positives? And also too, what are those consequences?
So I think like a win is that now that I'm at this point, I feel like a- almost like a sigh of relief. Like a
Mm-hmm.
weight is off. I did it. I'm here. Um, and I feel like I can take some of that pressure off of myself. But then at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, there's added pressure of you work this hard, you don't want to go backwards. So it's kind
Right.
of trying to find that balance, of um, maintenance, I guess, where
Maintenance.
you can live a little bit and enjoy life and, go out with your friends and have a couple glasses of wine or enjoy that dessert on your birthday and not feel the guilt and the shame.
Mm-hmm. No.
Um, but
Yes.
then I think a lot of people, when they look at you and they know your history, it's almost like there's a whole nother pressure that you kind of feel you have to, in a sense, justify yourself now in not making them feel bad about their journey.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make
Yes.
sense?
Yes. In a way. Yeah. So if you saw someone today, you were in the studio and you saw somebody that was
Uh-huh.
struggling.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of times in the beginning, a lot of people in the beginning, they just want to get off 10 pounds. They just want to get off
Yeah.
15 pounds. They just want it to come
Yeah.
off just to get the ball rolling.
Right.
And they'll do something else that's somewhat drastic just to see that momentum on the scale, because that you know in
Yeah.
in a way gives them motivation. That's kind of a double-edged sword.
Right.
Okay. So what would you tell that person? So looking back.
Thinking back, fitness is a journey, not a destination. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to make the decision every day to do it. And as long as you show up, that's better, be better today than you were yesterday. And just do a little something more today. Because it's easy to fall into that trap of, oh, I've lost 10 pounds, yay, and kind of go out and celebrate. And the next thing you know, you've gained like 5 of it back. And then you're
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, you just go into this mindset of, I gained it all back. And then it goes into this whole emotional eating. And then you gained more,
Yes.
even more than that.
That
So I
cycle.
think it's allowing yourself to make mistakes, but
Yes.
knowing that there's always tomorrow and you can start again. Like
Yes.
it's not the end all be all. Like, there were times in there when I really struggled, like right after my mom died. Like, there were some times where I just did not want to get up and go to the gym. Like I did not want to do any sort of workout. I was exhausted physically, emotionally, just drained from dealing with all this and, the family issues afterwards. But my sister-in-law's like, hey, let's go for a run and, get like a workout in, do some, body weight stuff. And I did. And I felt so much better, just kind of to recenter.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself kind of missing workouts and craving workouts when I didn't have them. And because setting them up was almost like a reset.
Yes, they are. And, exercise is totally known to do that little mental switch, especially when you're feeling a lot of stress. And that's that whole endorphin release that, and people will say,
Mm.
I don't know why would get happy about working out, but it definitely decompresses some of those stress hormones. It does a lot of that. But one of the things that people have to do, yes, is create that little nucleus of three habits that they stick to no matter what, because those are grounding factors. And when you lose your grounding factors, then you tend to spin out of control. And then when you
Mhm.
spin out of control, you feel like everything else is just taking you along the tide.
Yeah.
So what would you say are three habits that you stick to no matter what, no matter where you are?
Protein in my coffee
Okay.
every morning.
Mm-hmm.
I try and do some form of like I don't want to say working out, but like even walking, even if it's just like walking around the block I mean, because you can walk anywhere.
Yes.
Even on rainy days, you can walk in place or walk them down your stairs or walk around your house. So go find some place to walk.
Yes.
I do that. And then I have just allowed myself grace, just making sure you give yourself grace and not
Yes.
take I know that sounds crazy to have it as a habit, but for some of us who are like OCD and like perfectionists,
Yes.
really mentally every day giving yourself grace has made a huge impact on it.
Yes. So not going back to that punishing mindset that you kind
Right.
of grew up with, okay?
Right.
That you were punished. Now, when you were a little kid, were you looked at a little funny when you had extra cake or a candy bar or anything like that? Was anything going on that way?
Yeah, definitely. And I specifically remember this one story. Um, I was with my family and we went to the store and everybody was buying like those sour straws. And it was back in the day where like you bought it by the individual straw.
Yeah.
And I bought like a bunch of them because I was going to share them with everybody. But like I
Mm-hmm.
went to buy them and this one person looked at me like, everyone else bought like, 5, and I bought
Yes.
25. And they kind of looked at me with this face and I'm just like, I'm buying them to share.
Yes.
But it was just like, why did they just look at me when I was the one buying candy? Everyone else bought candy too.
Yes, very
Like,
judgmental. Yeah, very
very much
judgmental.
so.
So where probably if you were a skinny kid and you bought 25, they would have said, "Oh, good for you for having a healthy metabolism," or something like that,
Yeah.
which I've seen that before in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Yeah, so all of these things put together, so you had to go through almost to a process of healing that child and
Right.
letting that child go. Because those things do carry through with us. I've seen a lot of times some clients respond to adult stressors, and their response to an adult stressor would be the same way they would respond when they were a child.
Right.
So either in some people in the course of emotional
Hmm.
eating isn't just overeating, it's also not eating.
Right.
So when people are under tremendous stress, they will not eat, and or if they're fearful, and they would do this as a child where they would feel sick to their stomach and they couldn't eat.
Hmm.
And they respond that way the same as an adult. So having to unlearn some of those behaviors is key in making
Hmm.
the change. Yes, we have to make those nutritional habit changes, right? But there's also that deep fundamental change on how we respond to life around us as an adult,
Right.
right? Now, the last question I think I want to ask you, let me look on my notes. Let's see. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. All right. No, actually, I think I did cover all of the questions. Yes, I did cover all of the questions. So, yes, you have come such a far, far way, and
Hmm.
being able to do this. And I have no doubt, 100% no doubt, I can always tell this with clients when they get it and they will stick with it for the rest of their lives. And I
Yeah.
can always tell when it's still surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is the way they talk about it is different.
Yeah.
But yes, you will never, ever go back to that person, you know, ever
I will
again.
not.
No, I know that. I know. There's some people are always like, oh, you'll make a few trips back.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have to go back and learn a couple more lessons before they kick it for good. No, but you've done a fabulous job and you've gotten crazy strong. Yes. And exercise now is a relief or release of stress for you versus a burden. But you've also decided to make it a commitment, and you'll do it, at least you set those bare minimums and get it in no matter what.
Yes. Right. And I think, part of that too is it's even more so, I guess ingrained now. I never thought I would have lost my mom before my dad. And just knowing that all these underlying health issues that everybody knew she had, but she was kind of in denial about them.
Yeah.
And because she was in denial about them, it kind of made them worse. Like for diabetes, she never fully admitted that she was diabetic. And so she tried to control it by extra, diet.
Yes.
Which I know how much sugar I can have, kind of doing it that way to where she became insulin dependent. And then she ended up on a pump because she couldn't even manage it with the insulin because she was lying to herself about how much sugar she was having.
Yes.
Or it was almost like denial about how much. And you see that in someone you love, and it really makes you realize almost like that in yourself, I guess.
Yes.
You see that in yourself and you're like, I do not want to be like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you almost, in some ways it was kind of like, I don't want to say detrimental, but it was a struggle to not then obsess in the opposite direction.
Right. To be in the
finding that balance, because
finding the balance.
Obviously going in the opposite direction can be just as harmful.
Very much. And that's unsustainable too. Yes. In the middle. Yeah. The same. Yeah. My father too, with his insulin dependency and all of these things. Yeah. I would say that's one of the key things that people want to avoid is blood sugar dysregulation and inflammation in the body, because it just wears the body down so quickly.
Right.
Yes. That's definitely something to always be, like you said, really honest with yourself about, because you may be able to function for a period of time, but it takes such a toll on the body and degrades it so much faster, even with things like metformin and So, well, this was fabulous. And here, my little one here wanted to jump on the screen.
Oh, it's so cute. Show me your tongue.
She was
Really does it when she relaxes.
I know, and she sticks her little tongue out because she has no teeth. Oh, poor little baby.
Cute.
But well, Marcy, I so appreciate you doing this. I'm going to send this out. Okay. So I'm going to be able to send this out and put it on, especially to other people that are not within the studio. If you're okay with that, I'm going to send that out. Yeah. And then I think it'll be so super helpful to see just how you can make that transformation, especially as you get older. And did you turn 40, didn't you?
I just turned 40. I did. Yeah.
Yes.
Big number.
Welcome to the 40s.
But I feel like I'm very thankful for Christine introducing me to Think, and for my entire tribe at Think, you and Pamela and Cassie and Beth, and just all the women that I have met there that have supported me on this journey, where it's ingrained in me at 40.
At 40,
so because I feel like at 40 it's there, but I feel like it's it's going to be sustained. It is part of me now, that it's going to be part of me forever.
It will be. Yes, it will be. It's become something you actually enjoy. And I can always tell that when you come into the studio, something you look forward to. Yeah, exactly. I know.
Exactly.
Me too.
It's my happy place.
Yes, I can understand that. Me too. So, and then I'll be looking forward to, oh gosh, I'll be 50 in 3 years, which I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to be 50. Ugh.
I know. I don't feel old enough to be 40.
Yeah, I don't feel old enough to be 47, but anyways. So this was awesome. So thank you so much. This is going to help a lot of people, And
I mean, if anybody would like to, message me or, sit down and have coffee and find out some more information, or just needs encouragement.
Yeah. Encouragement is
I'm
huge.
Happy to,
yes.
To help and share more.
Yes.
And encourage. Because it really does make a difference.
It does. You just need to,
Yep.
slow and steady wins the race, and it's a journey. It's not easy. Things don't happen in 28 days or 60 days or 90 days. It's a process.
Right.
People can lose weight quickly, but they don't have the ingrained habits when they do it quickly.
Right.
And since they didn't learn those ingrained habits, the weight just comes back on.
Right.
So people would just accept that this takes time, and yes, it doesn't have to take 3 years, but in generally, for people to really make this 100% fundamental change, it doesn't happen in just 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, all
Right.
right. Well, this was a
But
great
worth the
message.
investment.
Yes.
All right. You have a great day.
Have a